Okay, so welcome to our last call, and thank you so much, Alicia and Carrie, for being here today. This call is really about, it's not about teaching for me, because the teaching part has really been in the first, those calls that we've had before, the 5 prior calls. This is really about Q&A, excuse me, helping you equip and empower you to, if there's any kind of, issues or stumbling blocks or anything like that that you've been experiencing throughout this program, to clear it up now, or any kind of confusion, um, anything that you need clarity around so that you can truly have success. So I will do a recap of what the 4 pillars are to really the foundation of building and fixing on our metabolism, that is going to be really true for anyone. And I know that's a really bold statement to make, because a lot of us have we have a lot of and I do too still, emotion, or around food, and beliefs around, well, everybody's different and all these things. And yes, we are different in a lot of different ways based on our metabolism and whatnot, but the building blocks for us as a human race are all pretty much the same. And it's the 4 pillars of food, really getting back into food as being fuel, and understanding how food has been, the knowledge and wisdom around food has been hijacked over the last over 100 years to keep us in a state of illness and sickness. And I'm not sure if any one of you read what I put in the group, I think it was yesterday, but that just gives a little inkling. If you haven't seen it, go back through, because it will share with you how the food industry is truly hijacked to get us to eat processed foods, high carb foods, even grains that we have been taught that are healthy, like such as, let's say, quinoa, lentils, things like that. That there's just so much more to the story, than what we've been told. Even vegetables and fruits, things like that, because, and I'm not here to demonize all of those. I'm here to just provide education and understanding around what those are, so that you can all make the best decision for yourself and start to tune into your own body and understand how certain foods affect you, so that you can be empowered. I never want to be in the position of, tell me what to do and I'll do it kind of thing. It's like, okay, I'm going to share with you the wisdom and the teaching so that you can take action, and that you can really own your choices, but understand why you're making the decisions that you're making, and understand why and how we're being manipulated. Um, and not really given the information that we really need to make the best and wisest decisions for ourselves. So that is the biggest passion that I have behind what I do and why I do what I do. So the 4 pillars, again, the first one being food, understanding, dare I say, the politics behind food, the lobbyists, the money, the all of the things behind food, and here's what I'm going to leave you with food. So we know the first teaching was around food. So if you have any questions around what to eat, what not to eat, the things that are the foundation of how to help rebuild your metabolism and fix your metabolism, go back to that teaching in number 1, the first training that we had that's in this group. But it's really about understanding that the takeaway from this is everything that you start to hear in the world that's demonized. And a big one is fat, right? And I'm a big one. I'm talking about fat, and really good fats, especially like animal-based fats. Know that there's a bigger story behind that, and use that information to start doing your own research, to start getting curious around, like, I wonder, why would we be told these things about saturated fats, about animal fats that are bad for our health? Interesting. And one of the things, I can't remember if I shared it in here or not, but I'll share it here on this call, it's a really good last call type of, I'll leave you with this information. In 1917, the ADA was founded, and Lena Cooper was her name that founded the ADA. She worked underneath and was a student of, I think it's Henry something Kellogg. So you can already start to put the pieces together, because Kellogg, all the Kellogg cereals, Kellogg, anyway. They were, two of them were big Seventh Day Adventists. And Seventh Day Adventists, if you know anything about that religion, is very much plant-based, very much a lot of dogma around that particular religion or that particular group and belief system. And they both felt that this world could be better if we suppressed sexual urges, if we started to cut out children, and so some of the words I'm going to say here might be offensive to some of you. It's just what it was, but masturbation, sexual urges, sexual, what they thought was sexual, like deviation. And they knew that a plant-based diet and pushing that was basically going to mess with our hormones, our sex hormones, men and women, and that it would literally like drive down the drive to procreate. So you can look at the history of the ADA. It's like, it's there, and that's the thing. So this is driving our information over the last 100 years. There's so much more to Kellogg that I won't go into right now, because it's not necessarily pertinent to this group. But it's important that we understand, because there's so much fear around fat. There's so much fear around even red meat. There's so much fear around lessening the carb intake, especially when it comes to like fruits and vegetables and whatnot, because we've been sold a lot of information that we have to really start to decipher for ourselves, that not everything that we have been told is the truth. And you can just see that literally in our society right now, when not even 6% of the people out there in the world are actually meet the standard criteria. And I'm talking standard criteria of health. That doesn't necessarily mean optimal health. That's standard health. 6% of people. We are in a health crisis. It's time that we relook at what we think is healthy and start to go, oh, I wonder if all the things that have been demonized in our world, in our health world, are the things that I actually need to take a little bit deeper look into to see if they might be actually healthier. What if those are the things that are actually going to heal me? And going against the mainstream. So that's number one, is food, is helping to understand that there's so much to food, and getting that foundation, right? Where the foundation within this was high fat in the morning to break your fast, breakfast, break fast, right? So we are helping your blood sugar. Blood sugar, if anything that you take from this course, that you start to dig in for yourself, right? Like I was just talking about with a lot of the agendas around food, but also the second thing is your blood sugar. Blood sugar is so much more important than cholesterol, right? We've been sold lies around so many of these things. So when we can break our fast breakfast with a high fat, moderate protein, and very low to no carb break fast breakfast, we actually are supporting not only, our blood sugar, right? Because blood sugar is like, fat is the only thing that actually supports blood sugar. Protein even can get broken down into and get used for glucose if we have too much protein. So we're not only supporting our blood sugar, but we're actually supporting, as women especially too, our hormones. And after 40, after even 35, in a lot of women, hormones is like the biggest issue. And the biggest issue with hormones is not enough fat. It's not enough fat and too many carbs. Meaning, when we say carbs too, I'm talking fruits and vegetables too. So again, I'm not demonizing things. I'm just trying to help like understand like there's just so much to this. So this is a foundational, course, right? So this is Jumpstart. It's jumpstarting the understanding and that first 10 pounds to help to fix your metabolism. And that's the first thing to really understand in fixing your metabolism are these things that I'm, just shared with you. So, and then eating real food, even if you still like, yeah, do some veggies if you want, do some fruits. Great, wonderful. Do real food though. Get out the processed foods, the seed oils, the things that are going to really cause the inflammation and the inflammatory response in our bodies. And then once you start to do this, the more and more that you're on this, and that the more that you honor this for yourself, you're going to start to realize when you start to add in certain foods, how does my body respond? So some of the questions you can ask yourself is, how do I feel after eating this certain food? I know so many people who eat what they think is healthy and they feel tired. They feel lethargic. They might have bloating, things like that, cramping maybe after that. So start to ask yourself the questions so that you can get in tune with your body. How does this make my body feel? Period. There's no right or wrong in that. This is about getting in tune with you. Right? For one person, they might be able to handle, more, I don't know, whatever it is, more carbs or more whatnot. And some people, if there's insulin issues, if there's any kind of things like that, it's going to be different. So you have to be the one to really um hold this for yourself. There are no straight answers for anyone. You have to be your own experiment. And so do that for yourself and understand that for yourself. And so the second pillar was sun, right? We talked about the importance of the sun and getting tuned in to our own sleep wake cycle and how important that is. The sun is not just this thing to just come up in the day and maybe have it, or maybe it's behind clouds. This is so critical to our, not only our energy for the day, but our sleep for that night. Um, how we even metabolize foods, our blood sugar, cortisol levels. We can reprogram if you've got cortisol issues, right? If you're getting up in the middle of the night still and having a hard time getting back to sleep, especially around that 1 to 3 a.m. mark, then there's cortisol issues that have got to be at play, right? So reprogram that by getting up with the sun. And if you're not able to get up with the sunrise, get up when you can and get outside immediately with the sun so that you can give your brain, right, that information, because you're getting information from the sun. It's a messenger of light. Light carries information. The sun is a messenger of light, and light is information. And it's information not that you're hearing right from, like, as you're talking to a friend or whatnot, not the same way, but it's giving those signals to your brain to increase serotonin, right? And the more you increase serotonin when you get outside, the more you're actually going to have the capacity to create melatonin later in the day. So these all are so integral and integral to the process. So the sun is number two, of really getting in tune with the sun. And one of the food parts of this was not eating after the sun goes down, right? So live your life by the sun. The sun comes up. Okay, it's time to go, right? Cortisol's up. Let's go hunt. Let's move, right? Let's move our bodies, whatever that is. That might be lifting, that might be moving. As far as walking, that might be doing HIIT. We talked about the movement as well on pillar 4. Now, there's some nuances within that. And if you choose to work with me one-on-one after this, like if there's certain things that you're like, yeah, I really need to kind of fine tune some of these things, this is the beautiful time to be able to fine tune that, because not everybody is going to be the best for HIIT right now. Let's say you've got some nervous system issues. Let's say you've got thyroid issues. Let's say you've got some other just blood sugar issues, things like that, that are happening. Now we can like fine tune these things, but you have the basics and you have the foundation right now through this program. So even if you never did anything else, you never saw me ever again, use these principles that we went through for the course, And at the same time, if you're like, okay, like, yes, I got some things, I started to sleep better, a little, better. I started to like establish some better habits. I lost a little bit of weight. I'm feeling a little bit better, but I know that I want to feel even better. Now it's time to like fine tune based on what your metabolism is, and because everybody's metabolism and metabolic health is different, and so this is where the individualization, I don't know, whatever, can come into play in a really beautiful way. So if that's something that interests you, definitely like get a hold of me, and we can do that. We can talk about like what your actual individual goals are and what's really going on in your health on an individual basis, especially if you didn't do one-on-one with me up until now. So that's the beauty of one-on-one. So that's so the fourth pillar, like I just mentioned, is the movement, right? You get up in the morning with the sun, you move, and depending on your goals, right, which we went over, is the movement that you'll pick. So we have strength training, we have HIIT, and we have zone two. Zone two is fat burning. HIIT is cardiovascular health, but also brain neurogenesis. So you're building new neurons in your brain, memory, cognition. You got brain fog, should be doing some HIIT, things like that. And strength training is important for every woman, period. Strength training is important for every woman, period. And you can do this with body weight. You can do this with actual weight in the gym. Starting out, you just have to start doing something just a couple days a week. But strength training is a non-negotiable, period, no matter where you're at in your health journey. And no matter when you get to your goal, it is a non-negotiable, just for your own health, for your own mitochondrial health, and if you're wanting more energy throughout the day as well too. So that's that. Sleep was pillar number 3. Some tips: taping your mouth at night. I do that. I've done that forever. I actually just had to get more tape today because my tape roll um, uh, ran out the other night, and needed to get new tape. It's one of the best things that you can do to teach your body to breathe through your nose, and you're actually able to hold on and bring in a deeper level of breath and a better quality of breath, like, which is spirit, right, within your body as you're sleeping at night as well too. So that's so good. Changing out your light bulbs to incandescent, a very inexpensive way to kind of do a hack. Once the sun goes down, turn off all the bulbs in your home that are LED or that are not incandescent. Again, you're going to have to probably buy those on Amazon because I think it's illegal now in most states, if not all states, to buy incandescent bulbs off the shelf at, say, Lowe's or Home Depot, something like that. So you can buy them very inexpensively. I do that in my own home, or you can buy red bulbs as well too. So say for your bedroom, you can have like a red light, because that is the most, you're not going to interfere with the production of melatonin. And that's why it's so important. So if you're still having sleep troubles, go back to the sleep video and start to implement some of the tips that I have in there. And there are color filters on your phone. All of these are so inexpensive. Some are free and some are very inexpensive, and they all make a big difference in your quality of sleep. Because if you do not have sleep, you do not have health. If you do not have sleep, you do not have health. If you do not have sleep, you do not have health. And I say that 3 times because it's that important. It is literally the magic elixir. And if you have a snoring partner, sleep in another room. If you have animals, I don't really care how much you think that they don't interrupt your sleep. They do interrupt your sleep. They just do. And it's not going to harm them by keeping them out of your room. How you can take care of yourself is the best thing right now for us all. Like, and our sleep. If we're not prioritizing our sleep, we're not prioritizing our health. If we're not prioritizing our sleep, we're not prioritizing our health. Whatever you can do to improve your sleep, if you're not waking up well rested, if you're waking up tired, if you want to sleep in the middle of the day, or you need that caffeine boost in the middle of the day, and you're not, you don't have that sustainable energy, then work on your sleep. And these are some of these things that you can do. decrease the temperature in your room at nighttime just by a degree or two. There's so many different things that you can do that are, again, so simple. It just requires some time and a little bit of effort. And I realize how controversial anyone who's in a relationship, how it can feel to say to your partner, I'm going to sleep in another bed, or I want you to sleep in another bed, especially if they're snoring or things like that. But again, if you're not prioritizing your sleep, you're not prioritizing your health. And your health's not gonna get better if your sleep is not on par. So if you're not waking up, ready to face the day, now there's gonna be days. Again, it's not gonna be perfect. Okay. So there's gonna be days where it's like, yeah, sleep could have been better last night. But majority of the time, make sure your sleep is on par. So those are the 4 pillars. If you have those in tune and in line, you have the foundation of truly fixing your metabolism. And now in these 6 weeks, we've practiced, right? We've practiced these, we've started to implement them, and keep doing it for yourself. It's not an overnight fix, especially depending on everything that's happening in your past, right? Again, I'm going to go back to, like, everybody's different. Everybody's metabolism is different. Everybody's state of health is different. So if somebody's coming into this just needing to lose a little extra weight, like, and with no other prior health stuff, it's completely different than somebody coming in with thyroid issues, maybe with acid reflux issues, maybe with, maybe chronic pain issues, joint issues, things like that. That speaks to, like a prolonged mitochondrial deficiency issue. So keep on with this foundation and building this into your life to make these things habits. It's the best thing that you can do for yourself, is to do these things. Make them work within you, right? Like, again, there's a fine line between, we have to change to have change in our life, right? We all know that. We've all heard that. A lot of us, though, don't want to implement change to the degree of what we know we need. And I get it. I'm guilty of it too. I just wrote a post on it the other day. And at the same time, if we're not getting the results that we really want, we have to ask ourselves and own that and say, okay, what am I really actually willing to do here? What am I really willing to do to commit to my health? This isn't about committing to me. This isn't about committing to a Jumpstart program. This is committing to you, right? And I've had to do the same thing. And you know what? With the commitment, I have to continually commit to myself. It's not just one and done. So I want you to know that you're going to come into, like, the mindset, right? The mindset is the foundation of this program. The mindset will tell you, well, I deserve this. Oh, I can do this. Oh, do I really need to do this? Does does Erin even know what she's really talking about? All of those things are going to come in. And we're going to want to go back to what feels, quote unquote, normal. And normal can feel not good, but we're going to want to go back to that place because it's safe and we know what to expect. So just the more we can catch ourselves in the mind drama and realize and pay attention. One of the things, I just had a podcast with a woman that I've worked with now the last probably 10 to 12 weeks. And one of the biggest things that was helpful for her was, she's like, everything that came up in my mind, she's like, you would tell me about that was going to happen. And it came up and I was like, oh, yep, Erin said this is going to happen. So then she was able to actually deal with that and not give up on herself and not go back, because she knew, like, oh yeah, she knew to expect it. So just, I'm telling you, expect it. Expect it. Whenever we make a change, our brain, our ego, or whatever we want to call it, is going to be like, I just want to go back to what feels good. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. We don't have to shame ourselves for it. It's just the understanding. It's bringing in the awareness and the understanding so that then we can show up differently for ourselves. And there's going to be times that we're going to be like, yeah, I'm going to take this week to have fun and unwind and maybe eat more than, what I normally do, and all of these things. That's okay. Here's the thing though. If the majority of your life you're in a rhythm of supporting yourself, those extra few weeks that you take through the year to indulge and to have fun are not going to be a detriment to you. What happens is when those weeks become the majority and become the norm, and then there's a few weeks in the year that we're like, I'm going to really be on track. Do you see the flip flop that we could, so it's about really creating this foundation and a solid um, space within ourselves. And it's simple shifts. And when we get out of it, we start to realize, I can't tell you how many clients have told me, oh my gosh, yeah, for 2 weeks, I haven't done the sun. And I can tell. I can tell my energy level. I can tell my mood, all of these things. So use those times when we go back and we backtrack, right? And we go back to like this place of like not wanting to do the things that support us, to give us that information. If we start to not feel good, it's like, oh yeah, I don't feel good right now because I'm not, sticking with this. I'm not really showing up for myself in the way that I know I need to feel the best. So just use it as information rather than to shame yourself. And then sometimes our mind will tell us, well, I've already gone off already a little bit. Might as well just keep going. And that's the worst thing that we can do. I know we can all relate to that. It's like, well, I've already had this pizza or this ice cream or this, whatever it is, right, for you. So what's it hurt if I just keep going? Well, that's the problem, is we have that mindset rather than like, okay, so I've had this, no problem. Tomorrow or the next day, I'm getting back on track. You just get back up and you keep going. And that's what it is, building a habit. Like riding a bike. So I will, well, let me ask, or let me just share this too. Okay, I have a really great deal for anyone here, and this is going to be good through next weekend. So next Sunday, what is it, 21st, next Sunday, that I'm going to have two more groups for the rest of the year. So one starting in August and one starting in October. Basically, you're going to get support for the remainder of the year and support and accountability if you want to continue in these groups. If you want to continue in these groups, you're getting the videos every week, you're getting the replays. If you can't make it live, you're having the support in the group and you're having this teaching. And the more I'm learning, the more I'm bringing to you. So every teaching is going to be different that I do. It's going to be the same foundation, but it's going to be more information or just different things. And staying in the energy of the accountability, staying in the energy of what you want. So it's, what do I want? How do I want to enter into January 2025? What's going to support you now to do that with your health? And perhaps that's staying in these groups, right? To have that accountability, to have the teachings, to have the community, to have the that support, right? So basically what I'm going to give, this is like literally a flash thing. Like I'm going to do this crazy. It's only a week. After this is going to change. So this week is going to be, you can have both of these groups support for the next 5 months, literally for only the cost of one group for $497. So you're going to get two groups plus staying in the group for 5 months for $497. If you choose after this week to do it for all of you, it will be $747. So it'll be like 1.5 times. So you have this week to decide if you want to do that. After that, you're still getting a deal, like a special, I guess. But that's what I want to offer you, because I know the power of accountability. I've taken several of the same classes with the doctor and the support that I had last year, because I knew I needed it. I knew I had to stay in the energy of it, or I knew I was going to get off. I knew myself well enough that my mind was going to just take me off track. And so the other option is, if you know that you're better, sometimes group isn't for everybody. Sometimes people just really do well with one-on-one. And so I'm available for one-on-one as well too. And I've already talked to a few of you about that, about continuing one-on-one. So if you want to do one-on-one in the group, reach out to me. There'll even be a really great option for you. We can decide on what you need, because it's really based on your own individual needs. But if you want to stick with the group, you have a week that you can have literally the rest of the year for $500. So let me know about that by the 21st. And if you want to really target some individual things that are happening within your life and your health, we can do that. I've worked with women who are type 2 diabetes, fatty liver, um, can, people with no gallbladder, so many different things that are, happening in their life that they're really wanting to like fine tune their goals. And we can do that one on one as well too. So just get a hold of me if that's something that you want to do, and we can talk about that. Um, and yeah, so I will open it up to Carrie and Alicia for any questions that you either one of you may have, and we'll open it up.
I don't think I have any questions specifically, just that this was great. Like I felt like I had a pretty good background, or like head start on a lot of things, just, that I've learned the past few years, but I still got so much good information from this.
Awesome. What would you say, if I can ask you, like, what were your main, like, maybe one or two, like, takeaways that you felt like were really valuable for you?
Um, Still trying to wrap my head around some of it, but just, like, I think I told you this the other day. I'm still probably not eating enough fat. I'm not tracking anything. That may be the next step to actually see like what I've just been cognizant of, like heavy fat in the morning and no carbs, and then trying to have some sort of healthy fat throughout the day. Eating meat is not an issue. We are a meat family. Like that's not an issue for me. Um, but when I sit and like, as I would hear you each week on just how much and seeing kind of what you eat and what you've shared, I'm like, I don't think I'm anywhere near where I should be,
Hmm.
because I feel like that's way too much. So it's more like I've definitely increased my intake, decreased my carbs, not eating as much fruit. I mean, I didn't eat a ton of fruit to begin with, but I'm just I'm filling my plate with the other things first, I guess would be a way to that I've kind of done it in my head, and then going in afterwards if I'm like need something else or whatever, like add berries or whatever, but typically I don't,
Yeah.
because I am satisfied.
Hmm. I love that you brought up something just really, just one thing that you said about the fat, like, I can't remember exactly the words you used, but like, is it too much kind of thing? Like, oh, like, right? There's that fear. And
Yeah,
it's realizing how ingrained we are with this belief that fat is bad. Like, we don't really realize it, right? How much
right,
we
because
are.
everything you've taught us makes sense. I'm like, all of it, from the history of it, the transition away from fats to go to the
Mhm.
process, like I like a lot of that is not new information to me. So logically, I'm like, okay, like this makes sense. But then, yes, I'm still like, whoa, that's way more,
Yeah.
whatever. It's just still, yeah, I'm slowly but surely getting there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a process, and it's having grace for ourselves, and it's knowing what we need to really support ourselves and nourish ourselves. And when we really truly understand that fat is the most nourishing thing that we can give our bodies for our hormones, all of the ailments that happen to us after, when we say perimenopause, menopause, it is so much of it. I'm not gonna say all of it, but so much of it is this lack of understanding around how beautiful like fats are to what we need. I mean, we need these fats because they actually make like our hormones. We need light, right? It's like light informs our mitochondria, right, to make the hormones that we need, and then we need the fat though to help make the hormone. Like it's all these beautiful little. It's like symphony. It really is. It's like I get chills when I talk about it. It's like it's these puzzle pieces that when we start to put them into play, it's like now our body can start to like sing back, right? And then we get in tune with life, in tune with ourselves, in tune with the universe, in tune with God, with spirit. And And it's a beautiful, process, once we get there. But yeah, it is a process. And so much of it is the deconditioning of of just what you were saying, Alicia. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Something you just said did like make me think. The morning sun, like especially those of us that weren't used to getting up early,
Mhm.
and I have done so much better getting up with the morning sun, going to bed like within an hour either way of like, or 30 minutes either direction of my bedtime or whatever. But there are times like, for example, today we had gone to a friend's house to swim, like do like late night swimming with the kids. So we got home really late by the time everybody got showered and in bed. I am on like started my cycle a couple days ago, so I'm dragging anyway. So like I opted to not set my alarm and just sleep today until I naturally woke up. And and of course I'm like, okay, did I just screw up like I I've been in such a routine, and honestly, I only slept an hour later, like than what I've been getting up. So that did tell me a couple of things like maybe my body doesn't, I mean, normally I think on days like that, I probably would have slept like a 9-hour night and I got 7 hours of sleep and naturally woke up on my own and felt okay when I woke up. But what is your advice on kind of listening and being attuned to your body, like truly attuned? Because I could tell myself every day I'm too tired to get up, but
Mhm.
I know that's not true.
That's a really
But I
great.
do think there are some days where like we need to just let our body rest because you've had whatever it is.
Yep. Absolutely. That I love that you asked this question, Alicia, because it is so important and it is so relevant to all of us, right? And it is so my answer to this is, and this is one of the reasons why I say we have to be so in tune, like we are our own experiment. Because if you don't know the lengths that our mind will go to, um, how do I want to say this? The lengths that our mind will go to make sure we just stay in a state of complacency, because that's all we really want. Like it's hard. The drive is like we have to like, make us like drive, right? And so like it's if we're not aware of ourselves, if we're not in tune with ourselves, this is where self-development, this is why mindset is the foundation, right, of this as well too. It's like so the more you start to understand your actual real tired cues, it's kind of like hunger cues. Oftentimes, like this is why I say no snacking. Eat 2 to 4 times a day. Have 3 to 4 hours between your meal, no less than 3, but no more than 4. I want you to get in tune with your real hunger cues, because oftentimes they're false hunger cues. We're not drinking enough water, right? We're maybe drinking 30 to 60 ounces of water, maybe a day, not enough. So then, we're like, oh, I'm hungry. Or it's just habit, right? Of hunger, right? So then we just give into that and we're not even getting in tune with ourselves. So, same thing with exactly what you're saying. There are days for me as well too where I'm like, if I'm pushing myself and if I'm going and I'm burning, like it's like a lot going on, say in my business with my kids, like I'm selling my house, all these things, right? And there's a day like where I'm like, oh yeah, no, like I know for me. So for me, here's how I know. If my mind feels super tired still, like my mind is just like, oh my God, I don't know if you know that feeling of like my brain feels like exhausted. Like it's literally in my head, like in my brain. Like I'm like, I need more sleep because I cognitively, I'm not here right now. If it's just my body though, but my brain is feeling clear, I know I'm like, okay, it's just my body. My body will be fine. My body can catch up to my brain. I can do this, and then I'm just like, the more I move in my body, Like, and it might be a lesser day of movement. Maybe it's like just like lighter training that day or just some walking, but I'm still moving and my brain and my body, but my brain is online. If my brain does not feel online, that's how I know for me, I need more rest. I don't know if that helps you. So it's like, it's just getting in tune with you to say, is my, because here's the other thing. My mind will trick me, right? Like, oh, it feels so good to just stay in bed, right? And then I'm like, now I can get up. So we have to know like when the trickster is at play and when it's really like, no, I actually need to support myself because right now my brain's not online. So for me, it's literally that cognitive. If my and then but then the other thing too is like, what did I not do last night or yesterday or the last few days to support myself? Right. So then it might be just like, I've just been crazy. It's just been busy. It's just been a lot of stuff going on. Okay, cool. I just need a day to sleep in then. And then I know now how I can support myself more. So with information, again, it goes back to having that information. But if we're just running by emotion, most of the time it's emotion when we want to just lay in bed. It's just emotion. Does that make sense? Like it's like, oh, I don't want to get up, you know?
Right. No, that does make sense. And I think I almost just wanted the permission to, yes, make that accountability to say,
Yeah.
like, yes, hold myself accountable, but also know, yes, like I've gotten up at sunrise 6 days this week. I'm beginning of my cycle. I'm exhausted, like
Yeah.
it's caught up after a heavy work week or whatever. And so giving myself permission to, yes, just
Yeah.
sleep until you get up and then go about your day or whatever.
Well,
Um,
I'll give you an example too, like my son, he's up every morning, before sunrise and his job is very demanding of him. He's outside and where we live is incredibly humid. We live in the South, we live in South Carolina, and right now this summer is like brutal. And there's been like more mornings where he's like, oh my gosh, I am having such a hard time getting up in the morning right now. It's like, yeah, because you are number one, overextending yourself, right? It's hot. So look at everything that is going on in the day and the environment around you as well, too, right? So then I'm asking him, what can you knowing now that your environment is more stressful than normal, what can you do to support yourself better in that environment? Do you need to drink more water? Do you need to add some more electrolytes? Do you need to eat some more fat? Do you need to have maybe a little bit better like quality protein? Right? Like, do you need like what can you do then to support yourself knowing like so if we know that we have a stressful week ahead of us, what can we do then to like put those structures in place to support ourselves in the highest way? Does that make sense too? So like maybe I need
yeah.
extra sleep because I know, so I'm gonna go to bed a little bit earlier and I'm gonna have to then forego maybe, I don't know, a show I watch or whatever. And it's just
Mhm.
temporary, but we're now like we're being so conscious and aware of our life so that we know what it is that we need to support ourselves. How does that land for you?
No, I mean that makes sense. I guess this is just where I'm like, I need the validation and that my thought process is right.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing is I don't want anybody to ever, this is not a religion. This is not dogmatic, right? So it's not getting into this place of like oh, all the time, all day long, it has to be like this, or I'm not getting it, I'm ruining it, right? If catch yourself in the all or nothing mindset. When you're in all or nothing, I have to do it all or I'm not going to get anything. That's never a good place to be. So check that mindset, right? Because we're always in flux, we're always in flow, and we are always in a process. This is just setting your life up where the majority of the time, yes, you're honoring this. And then there's times that, yeah, you're learning. We're in life, this is life school, Right? So take it as information, right? If you're like, I'm not getting it, okay, like see, evaluate, right, for yourself. And then like, yeah, I guess I just needed to sleep in. I'll be back up tomorrow morning. Don't shame yourself, right? We're so good at bringing ourselves down. And that inner critic, right, can like come in and be like telling us all the things that we shouldn't do or that we should do. So we got to monitor that too. That's just as important as, getting up for the sun or eating or whatnot too, is that mental, that mindset. So important. So yeah, anytime you feel like you're in the all or nothing, it's like, oh, I need to back up a minute here. Because all or nothing is never a healthy, ever a healthy place for us. So yeah, I love that question. Thank you for bringing that up.
I wanted to ask a question. It's so funny when we talk about fat and our like resistance to fat because that's just not my story. That's just not something that I have. But what I have realized in all of this is that mine is more based on the calories. I
Mm,
think there's this underlying calories in, calories out. Like, don't eat too many calories. You'll never lose weight if you have more than X calories or whatever it is. And so, um, I don't really find myself thinking too much about it during breakfast. I have since we've been doing this, I tried eggs at first and I that didn't work for me. It really had a lot of heartburn. Eating for me first thing in the morning is just not it's not my jam. The body does not like food in the morning. And so doing a modified coffee, more like a ceremonial cacao, no sugar, no nothing, just
yep.
with butter, has worked for me.
Yeah.
And I feel satiated until, I if I do that at 8, I'm good till noon or 1. And I do another shake that has more, maybe 8, 10 grams of carbs. So real low carbs, still high protein, high fat, for my lunch. And that's been phenomenal. And then by dinner time, I'm like, okay, I want some food.
Hmm.
And, and at this point, I've had maybe 800 calories, 800 calories. So it's like, well, crap, that's like more than half of the calories that I'm allowed for the day. But dinner always seems to be the biggest meal because it's food.
Hmm.
And I'm like, what the heck? So there's this conscious thing about like, well, I can either eat until I'm full, like satiated, like not hungry, or I try to like have a smaller portion or eat a little less, and then I am like hungry, low blood sugar right before I go to bed. So I've really found this like I'm putting maybe a little more on my plate at dinner time so that I can make it until morning.
Mm.
So then my mind is like, okay, well, you're overeating. Okay, well, yeah, I'm intentionally overeating because this is my last meal for the day. And I know that if I just eat until I'm full this meal, I'm going to be hungry 3 hours later, which is past the sunrise and right before bed. So it's like, I'm really finding, I haven't found the balance with that yet. I either eat, this massive meal and I'm like, yes, I'm so full and I'm great until breakfast and my calories for the day are 2000, which seems like, holy shit, that's a lot of calories.
Mhm.
So otherwise, I'm at the 15, 1800 calorie range and I'm like, I really wish I could have something before dinner, like a cheese stick or some nuts or just something. And so I have not figured that out yet. And that's where I think I'm struggling. All of the weight that I've lost has been within the first 3 days.
Mm.
And I was so retaining water coming off my trip to Curacao that my
Mm.
fingers were so swollen, my rings were stuck on, my ankles were so swollen. So I lost 3 pounds of water weight right then,
Mhm.
maybe 4 pounds within the first 2 days. And then I've just been right at that half a pound, fluctuating up, down, up, down, up, down. I went on that prednisone for a week in the middle, which
Mm.
bloop, 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 right back up and came off it, right back down. But I am right at that 163, 162 mark, and I have been for weeks minus the prednisone. So to me, it's like, okay, the fat works. I feel great. My sleep cycle has basically completely shifted. I'm waking up naturally now you know, between 6 and 8, honestly,
Wow.
depending,
That's
which is
huge.
huge
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
I feel rested. I feel fine. I'm allowing myself to wake up naturally, kind of like lay there for a little while. I've been walking for a couple of miles every morning,
Mhm.
doing workout classes, strength training classes a couple times a week. So it's like, okay, I'm implementing all of these things, but that I guess it's, I don't know if it's the calorie or the portioning or the food, or it's like, what the heck? So that's any insight you could give would be appreciated.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, the
I
first,
wanted,
Oh,
I'm in
that's,
the,
yeah,
I just
Alicia, go
want to
ahead.
say, like, I relate to everything you are saying. Like, I am the initial weight that was dropped, like the few pounds, and then it's been like a pound up and down fluctuate. I mean, everything else is great. Sleep is great. Mood is,
Yeah.
overall good. And that's where I'm like, stop, don't look at the scale, but then we're supposed to weigh ourselves.
right, yeah,
Well, and
Look at
I
her.
track everything I'm eating. I track my weight every morning. Like, I'm a Virgo, I'm a tracker because I want to be able to pinpoint,
yep,
like, okay, well, what did I do 3 days ago that worked? I don't freaking know. If I didn't write that shit down, I do
Yeah.
not remember it.
yep,
So-
totally, totally.
I'm not a tracker, and so that's interesting. Like, I'm just a wing it.
Yeah.
Probably
Tracking,
should be a tracker.
I have an app that I absolutely love, and I don't use it for like, don't do this purposes or this is too much. It's just, this is what I'm doing today, but I want to look back and
For
reflect.
data.
So,
yeah,
yeah, exactly. It's just for data. So, you
yep.
know,
It is, the tracking is so good for data, just like what you're saying, it's just information, it's getting
right.
that information, right? And so I love that, that you're doing that, and, the first thing I thought of though was like your lunchtime, is increasing calories around that lunchtime when you're having that shake, like so instead of having such a dinner heavy meal, right? Like if it's like 700-800 calories, that's a lot, right? For the body to like even like at one time. So like how could you like offset that a little bit and have even just an extra little bit like during the middle of the day as well? Because generally I would say this, between the time when we wake up, the first for sure 8 hours um is, and really up to 12, is where we're going to be metabolizing like the best possible, like our food is going to be used more as fuel. We don't need that much fuel in the evening times, like we need a little bit less. Now if we need some, like we don't want to like be starving ourselves right in the evening or whatnot, but use food and think of it as fuel through the day, so having more heavy in the daytime than at nighttime, and see what happens,
Mhm.
because the thing is like if you're having that heavy, like, so that's a big, I mean, that's a big dinner, that's a lot of food, like in the evening when not a lot during the day, right? So it's almost like having kind of a, like it's not, I mean, it's not like an OMAD, but like in a sense, I mean, because I know you're having like the heavy, fat, like coffee in the morning, and then, but it's very lighter though in the morning for you, right? And then heavier in the evening. So what I would do is like
And
change.
I've always been like that.
Yeah,
I do dinner with my family every night.
yeah.
So it's like, I
So
haven't figured out how to not do
it's not
that.
not, yeah, it's not eating. It's just like how can you balance that out? So maybe you're having 400 to 500 calories, right, at dinner time, and maybe an extra, 2 to 3, 100 or so, like in for the lunch time area, time frame during your day, during that middle of the
Okay.
afternoon.
Okay.
And I would, here's what I would do is I would shift it, because here's the other thing too. If, and this is where the individual part comes in. If there's, if there are any kind of issues that we know, and that we, and sometimes we don't even know, like there was a woman I worked with too, she didn't even know she had, there was issue because she never went to the doctor, and she just never went and got things figured out. We found out through this program that was like, oh, there are some underlying issues that she never even realized that were the cause of like weight gain that we had to like start to target. And so this is where the individual part is so beneficial, is like if
Mhm.
there's thyroid issues, if there's adrenal issues, if there are any kind of like anything that's happening within the body, like I mentioned earlier in the call, of that it's not just a typical, like, I just want to lose a little bit of weight kind of thing. If there's stuff going on, and I mean, let's be real, 6% of Americans, maybe the world, whatever, is actually considered healthy based on the standard stuff, right? So we've got stuff going on. We've got to now target these things. Like, it's not just like you're saying, calories in, calories out. How is my body then using this food as fuel, or is it using it to store onto? So it's first thing I would do for you, Carrie, then is to, based on just what you're saying, is to start to transfer some of those calories to earlier in the day. And I would do more, still focus on the higher fat in the middle of the day, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and, like the good, like animal kind of fats, things
Mhm.
like that, that are really going to satiate you and really help your hormones. Because the reality of it is, and here's the other thing too, if we can understand, if our cortisol and our blood sugar is regulated, so cortisol and blood sugar, weight will come off naturally.
And I
So
think part of it for me is this nightly family dinner ritual. The family's pretty good about kind of letting me dictate what we eat, but
yeah,
there's still a difference with that. The veggies are high and the carbs or the starches or the whatever are still there. So it's a conscious choice to not put it on the plate.
yeah,
And that's fine. I'm usually pretty good about that. But I think you're right. I think eating, it's like if you're gonna go to a party and you don't know what's on the table, it's like you eat before you go
yeah.
kind of a thing. And so it's like I think I need to just maybe start doing that, like eat the pre-dinner before I go so that there's less on my plate at dinner.
Mm,
Maybe, whether it's a couple hard-boiled eggs or, a piece of cheese and
yeah.
some cottage cheese or something. It's just like have the pre-dinner because maybe that will help.
Well,
Because yeah, I mean, my actual food,
yeah,
solid foods happen at night
I
because
bet
it's very uncomfortable for me to process them during the day with
yeah,
all of my stomach issues that I've had.
yeah,
It's easier for me to do my food processing at night when I'm asleep because it's not fun. I do not like being awake for it.
yeah.
So there's, been that aspect too that I haven't, nobody's,
Absolutely. If you do the focus on more fats and like really quality proteins, like moderate proteins and really higher fats, I guarantee you your gut issues are going to shift over time. They will.
yeah,
And if you
yeah,
give your body a break at night, don't eat, before bedtime, at least a solid couple hours. That
mhm,
is going to be so helpful to the less grains. If you got gut issues, right? Especially acid reflux too, like I know you've shared with me, like
mhm,
grains and carbs are not your friend. They really
mhm,
aren't. They are going to keep aggravating it, and they are going to drive up your blood sugar, and they're going to like increase your cortisol as well too, until that heals. It's not like necessarily forever that you have to ever, but it is
mhm,
until you heal. And what is going to heal you is literally higher fat and moderate protein. The
yep,
grain, the veggies, and the fruits are actually just aggravating. Um,
yep,
what's going on within you. And again, this is where individual, like, so not everybody's going to be in your place, right? So that's why, like, we can fine tune these things, but to know these things are so important for yourself even too, right? To be able to go, oh, okay, gut issues are not that hard to solve. They're really not. But we have to cut out the shit in our diet that is actually aggravating it. And it's the things that we've been taught are actually healthy for our gut.
mhm,
Fiber is not healthy for a gut that is inflamed.
mhm,
That's a hard one to swallow, right? Because we've been taught fiber is like, oh, I need fiber. Like, no, higher fat. Higher
mhm,
fat actually is, and it's going to take our body time to adjust to that though, too,
right.
right? So it's being patient with that, and it's trusting that process. And I love the fact that you can eat with your family, and I love that ritual that you have. I do. I love that. And it's something that you don't ever want to give up because it's so important to you. And it's not
Well,
about
and it's something for me that's temporary. I know I'm only going to be living here where I can do that with them for
mm,
maybe another year tops. I'd be shocked if
okay.
it was even that long. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I'm going I know that when I eat by myself, That's a whole different shift. It's a whole different, I never used to eat big meals like this for dinner.
Yeah,
So it's like, okay, this is a temporary
yeah,
thing that has some different benefits,
yeah,
from an emotional or a familial, like those kind of nurturing benefits. And it's like, okay, this is good to
yeah.
to remember for later when I change. This will be.
Absolutely. But like the thing is like the amazing thing is I love what you said about like kind of preparing for it ahead of time where you could still have it's the emotional connection that is the most important part of of doing the family dinners and stuff. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's like still continuing with that, but then how can you support yourself, through food, through that while you're still getting that emotional connection, right?
Mhm.
Like with
Mhm.
your parents and with your family.
Mhm.
But how can you support yourself still, right? Through that in the highest
Right.
way. I would say redoing your
Yeah.
energy coming in. Like that's the thing. Like we need the most energy for sure the first 8 hours of our day from the moment we wake up. It's when our brain needs it. That's when our body needs it the most. So if we're giving it on the end of that or even after that level, like our body
Mm.
is just not able to process it as well because it's starting to wind down.
Yeah.
It's just rhythm. If you think about it, cortisol starts to increase around that 2 a.m. mark, 1 to 2 a.m. mark, and it's a gradual increase. It starts to kind of climb up a little bit, and then it goes really, really, it spikes between that 6 and 8 a.m. Um, um, 6 a.m., 6 and 8 a.m. time frame. That is like, and that is when that's why I was saying we can reprogram our cortisol, right? To spike between that 6 and 8, because we want it to spike, but we don't want it to spike at 2. We don't want it to spike at 10 p.m., right? We want it to spike between that 6 and 8 a.m. because then it's like, oh, I now it's time to go hunt. It's ancestral, right? To go exercise, to do, to move our body. And so um I just completely lost my train of thought, but sorry. I just but yeah, I mean, like I don't even know. Anyways, but so if you think about it, like, oh, I know what I was saying. So 6 to 8 a.m. with the cortisol, like, right, it's a heightened thing. And then there's 4 kind of main cycles throughout the whole cortisol, and then it starts to gradually go down, go down, and go down, and go down, and go down in the night. And the lower our cortisol goes in the evening, so say it's spiking between 6 and 8 a.m. Beautiful, supposed to be, right? 8 hours, 10 hours after that, it's so far lower. We can't, we're not meant to be going out hunting and eating our feast, right, that we hunted, right, like that was like the biggest thing in the day, and then it carries us through. It's staying in that rhythm of like, oh, okay, it starts to increase then, and then it just repeats the whole cycle, and then it goes down and 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 down or whatever, through the evening, and then around 2 a.m. again it starts to increase a bit, but it shouldn't spike, it just starts to raise a little bit, so that around that 6 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m., whatever, 7, that time frame, we start to wake up, and it wakes us up, and our blood sugar goes up, our cortisol goes up, right? And our melatonin starts to go down. That's the beauty of the sunrise. And that whole symphony that we connect to as well too. And so it's just the more we can get into the rhythm of that, and the more we're trying to force our own rhythm outside of that, we're not going to have the results that we want. Does that make sense? Awesome. Well, any other questions before we close out today? These are great questions too. I love, thank you for asking them, because I know that if you had them too, like there's other people that are going to be in the replay, they're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for asking these. So all right. Well, it's been such a pleasure, and I'm here too for you if you have any other questions. Again, this next week to the 21st, if you want to stay in the group and just stay in the energy of the accountability and like staying in this energy of truly optimal health and fixing your metabolism, it just, it's a no-brainer. Like I want to serve as many women as I can through the rest of the year. If you have friends that you know could benefit from this as well too, send them over to me, and I can definitely offer them like a really cool deal too, just for, knowing you and having you in here as well too. Again, my goal is I made the commitment a few months ago. I want to serve 100 women the rest of the year in doing this, and really truly helping to fix their metabolism and coming back online with their health, because I know how important it's been for my own health, and just my life, all around. And I want to be able to do the same and to help share just the wisdom that I've gained in this, with y'all. So I would love to have you all, continue for the rest of the year with me, if that's something that speaks to you. And if you have, like I said, if you have anybody that would be interested, send them my way. And yeah, if you want to do one-on-one, let me know as well too. Just reach out. But it's been a pleasure, and I really, really hope that my intention too is that just continue with these principles. These are principles that are solid, and to continue these are only going to help to increase your health and your well-being, and from not only just physical, but it's emotional, it is mental, and it's spiritual as well too. And I just really appreciate your trust in me, and thank you for coming along on this journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was really awesome.
Yes,
Awesome.
thank you.
Yes, and I know I will be hearing from some of you very soon, and chatting with you. And yeah, have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll be in touch.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Bye. Virtually waiting.
Bye.
Bye.